Hello YouTube, this is Super SEL0320. I'm actually going to be talking about an interesting video that I watched. The video initially came out in 2011. The channel name was Love Above Hate. I'm not sure if this is a specific person that made it. I do know it was uploaded around that time frame. The name of the video is called One of Few Black Women Who Really Gets It. Thank God black women like this still exist. And I mean, she did a really good point of talking about the perspective of, from a female perspective, of what needs to take place as far as how females need to react to men, and specifically what she was talking about African American men and their interaction of how with she was going off of a video of Tyler Perry movie that she was looking at. I think it was for the Color Girls, and how one of the characters she was just so independent on knowing this guy that she was forsaking like her own like judgment, and it brought a lot of different topics up that she had brought into perspective, and it was really interesting everything that she said, and I really wanted to actually comment off of it. So I'm not going to give you too much spoiling off of it, and then towards the end I'll make more comments of what I really want to talk about, because the big bulk of what she was trying to say in it was about the fact that we are, I guess, that's why she didn't really want the guys to comment, because she wanted to make it from her perspective of what is it as a female perspective, what we're setting ourselves, our expectation levels up for. Is it that we're trying to look for, I got this way, or is it that we're trying to basically crucify ourselves in the sense of, well, we don't deserve this, and this is the reality of this. And so, without going into too much detail, I'll go ahead and start. First topic she was talking about was she went into a statistic of, all right, what was the percentage of single mothers in America? And at the time, it was 72%. Now, as of actually the statistics now, 2012, so I'm not sure what it is in 2013, it's actually 80%, which is very discerning, because when you think about like the essence of fatherlessness, that is the worst because with having a father in the relationship of the kid, of the dynamic of the home, it changes so many different things of how the person can be brought up, how grounded spiritually the person can even be. Because, to be honest with you, the way you actually see your father, like if your father was the most kindest person and gave you like breath of life, comedic, funny, easy to talk to, not asking for much, that's the way you're actually going to be able to see God. Your relationship with God can sometimes actually be filtered from a lens of how you actually see in your relationship with your dad. If your dad was absent, and all you know is the fact that maybe he gives money, maybe sometimes you see him, sometimes you don't, how is your relationship and your scope of how you view God going to really look like? You honestly think you're going to think that God's going to be there for you? Do you honestly think that God actually cares anything about you? Would you even care about yourself more? But I'm not gonna go too much what I'm about to say, but it was just interesting that she brought that statistic up, because she went into the comment saying that most of uh, African American females, what she's talking about, is demanding respect. Uh, what they need to be doing is demanding respect in the very beginning of the relationship. So basically, from her perspective, that if you start off with somebody that you know has got issues or has problems, and you don't set boundaries, there's actually a really good book called Boundaries that it's got different renditions now for dating, got different renditions for relationships with friends or family members, and people that don't know themselves, or people that don't love themselves, and they want to have control over you, they want to bring fear into your life, they want to actually change you in a certain kind of way, or even convert you into this kind of perspective. That is the reason why you need to set up boundaries, so you'll know what you're really getting yourself into. You'll know that, okay, starting off the gate, no, I don't, this is not what I am, this is not who I'm supposed to be. But what we have a tendency of doing is trying to follow the American dream, trying to have two kids, a wife, and XYZ, getting what you can, only what you can. The American dream is farce. Like, from the perspective that when you say, I want this, I want that, and you set like your boundaries, it's safe. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you actually just pick somebody out of just loneliness or trying to have this or having, like, if you need like a person just for company, just for there to be able to be a crutch for you in a sense, or if you have this internal conflict inside where you were maybe abused or you were maybe hurt, and you're like, okay, I need to have this. I can recreate this situation, and it's gonna come out a lot better subconsciously sometimes even, and 9 times out of 10 when you do that, you get a mess, and you don't set any kind of boundaries to watch out for that before you even get to marriage. And then by the time you get into marriage, it fails in divorce because you haven't started what you finish. And so what you start is what you're going to finish. If you start off not communicating, not being open, not showing like the true part of yourself instead of trying to impress somebody, or even after maybe 2 years of marriage, like going to a point where you're just like, you don't even communicate anymore because you don't know who this person is anymore, that has to start right at the very beginning. But also you have to know yourself. You have to know what is it that you're really trying to attain from this. Who are you really trying to be? Because all this really, honestly, y'all, this plays a factor into our children's lives. This isn't just about relationships. Relationships are everywhere. Like that's relationships could be with your dad, with your mom, with your significant other, with your kids. These kind of things are set up and brought about from like how you perceive a relationship with another person. And so this plays the fact into everything. But I'm gonna go slow. The next point she was talking about, she asked, why do women uh, not just go with a person that is sincere and honest and upfront about who they are? And if you know you don't have, this person's telling you that they're not this, they're not that, don't make them to be this person. Don't sit there and try to control and convert or make them into something they're not, because in their point in their life, they're maybe not where they need to be yet. And you try to fix them, and they really don't understand their fulfillment, so they try to cater to you, but then you are left really with nothing with except an incomplete person, like half of a person of what they potentially could be, a shell of themselves. But what she was going more into with this question, she was saying that why don't why don't African American women actually choose something that's a lot better, as far as with who they're looking at. They see what is black and white. Why would you choose to be with the person that's abusive? For example, she brought up a point that maybe we just really truly enjoy pain. It seems as though we enjoy pain. It's like she even brought up to a point. It was like we want to prove to ourselves that we aren't worth it. I thought that was very interesting, very deep. I mean, she didn't go into any spiritual points necessarily, but that was very interesting because inside, we're all flesh and blood. We're all dirt. We want to have things. We want to be accepted. We want to be catered to. But at the same time, all we know really is ourselves. And selfishness is totally different than selflessness. And so, say if you went through a lifetime of just abuse, then that plays a factor in how you interact with other people, how you think about, okay, because my dad did this, this is how my boyfriend's going to be, or my dad wasn't there, so I need to make sure I keep this guy this kind of way. Or with the case of abuse, I was abused by my dad, or I was abused by a family member that was a guy, or I was abused, or even turning around from the guy's perspective, I was abused by a guy. And this is a person that's supposed to be like a figure of light. So I'm gonna cater myself. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna be totally opposite. I'm gonna be metrosexual versus being a uprising man. I'm gonna be this kind of person that's like, oh well, I don't need you to be this. I'm just gonna kind of keep to myself and introverted because of what has happened in the past. Like if you go off of the word, like eventually when you do that, when you change, some part of your life you go through this level of like hopelessness that nothing can work out for you, and so you get into this void where you're like, okay, this is just the reality. It's gonna go from downhill from there. So you just pick anybody. You'll be with anybody or do anything, and it brings you completely down. When I thought about abuse, though, there was this verse, I believe it was Colossians 3:21. I'll read it. Because honestly, if this was actually talked about by a father in the right kind of way, like it would, it would change the whole dynamic of how we're all brought up if fathers actually like cater to this. The verse reads, "Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged." Like, that's really simple verse. But thinking about it from a realistic standpoint, if you go and you try to control your kid, or you try to hinder them, or try to break them, discipline is very important. If a person is acting out of character, your child's acting out of character, then discipline them. Do not abuse them. Do not try to make them into something that they're not. Try to live your life through them. If you're having brokenness and bitterness because people abused you in the past, it's going to affect the way the whole dynamic of your legacy is going to be through your children, and they will develop bitterness in their heart and recreate the same cycle, and it will become a generational curse. And that's what we as Christians, as people, need to actually start breaking. But I'm gonna go a little bit deeper because she's talked about a lot of other things, but I thought that was interesting. She was saying that what she was talking about, referring to women, that we should demand better. You have to, like, you have the real power to choose your own love. And it was interesting that she said that you have the power to choose your own love. Now, everybody knows, well, not everybody knows, that Christ's love, it is amazing. Like, you can't comprehend, like, how is a person can, well, not a person, but this vastness of being, go and take themselves, make themselves like a little ant, allow themselves to be and cultivated with the relationship with physical men and women that are of complete sin, and love on them, help them, cater to them, and then choose to have that same exact being or son die so that they could have everlasting life. And I'm talking about Jesus from the standpoint of who he hung out with. He hung out with the thugs, he hung out with the slaves, he hung out with people that he doesn't care about, but from a normal perspective, but he cared about everybody. He loved everybody. He wanted to help everybody. He didn't see like the faults just for the heck of it. It was like every person is something that can be saved, that can be redeemed. But he wasn't trying to live his life through them. He wasn't trying to make them this kind of idol. That was something that he had to be around. He knew, even in being like the Son of God, he knew that he needed God's help. He needed God's love and endurance, and at the same time, he had no judgment or arc in his heart towards anybody. And so he decided to give his life up for us. Like, that's so much humbleness of love. Like, if he would do this, how much more do we really need to take up our cross and do that? Because the essence of love, I'll even read a verse later, but God's love and our love are totally different. We seek love from people for all the wrong reasons, and we don't even have a real idealistic notion of love. When I was younger, I grew up very hard. I grew up with a lot of anger and coldness and hopelessness. It made me very cold to everything. I didn't know really what love was really about. I saw the movies, I saw all the things you could think of. I could reenact every of them. But as far as the essence behind love and being able to cater to a person, regardless if they're sitting there fussing you out and being this, like, how do you show love during that? Do you be fake, or what's real love? And so, thank God, God taught me how to love, but that's a whole nother story. I'll leave that for another day. But I'm going to go back into more of what she was saying, because all of this is really good. I really like how in-depth she went into this. But even when I think about hopelessness, like, for the girls, it's like their hopelessness, it turns into different levels. Like, sometimes it can be victimizing themselves into being in this kind of harsh environment, and that's the norm that they have to be. That's what they have to be consumed into. And it's like sometimes it'll happen where they just feel like everything is dead or lost. Sometimes they'll feel like, well, I'm ugly, so I need to hurt myself more. I need to gain more weight, or I need to lose more weight, or like all these different kind of things from just levels. It's this small hopelessness of not having like a father or not having something from the standpoint of the foundation when they're first brought up, and it all happens in home at first. And so no kind of education, no kind of, even if you go to Sunday school, like none of these issues are necessarily even being dealt with to a degree that they need to be dealt with. And so for the guys, sometimes they might envelop into thoughts of suicide, joining gangs. If you think that when you grow up in a certain area and a location, like all you know is folks are just slinging and everybody's dying around you, like you live to survive, and that's it. You go for what you can get. If you get more than what you expect, you maybe say you have to go to college, like that's not even necessarily in the cards. So like when you even get the education, or you're in the middle of college, you're like, man, dude, I'm tired of this. Like I want to be back in the area that I was, but like I don't want to be there, you know. And so all that is like levels of hopelessness that nothing was set and fortified for them to be who they needed to be. Like something is missing. And what I'm trying to bring about with this whole conversation is that we can change this with our children. Even though certain things that we still need work on, we can press into them something bigger, something more. And I'll go into detail about that more later, but I keep on reverting. I'm sorry, y'all. Um, she also said one comment, mind over matter. What you think is what is going to happen. If you think that you're going to have like a bad man, that your man is going to be like a cheater, he's going to be this, he's going to be that, that's what you're going to look for subconsciously. That's what it's going to be. And she made that comment, but I thought about the fact that yeah, to a degree, she's actually absolutely right, because what you say is what shall come to pass. Like words are important. Words can kill. Words can bring life. If you say without a shadow of a doubt, I know that my God has something in store for me. I know He has a person in store for me. I can wait. I can wait on the Lord for whoever and whomever, and I receive His blessings from me. If you continue to put that in your spirit and you believe and receive that, your subconscious is gonna be able to attune and discipline itself to do just that. But if you're speaking life, you're gonna get life. If you're speaking death, if you're speaking negativity, based on the word, that is what's gonna come to fruition eventually, and that's what you're gonna look for subconsciously. But it was interesting. She said that. I was like, the blame game. Because it is really, it goes back and forth. Like sometimes with guys will be more with the physical, like, well, this girl did this to me, so I'm gonna get her back about this, or I'm looking for this person this kind of level because of what this person did to me. And I can even empathize and understand that when you get hurt so many times, first when you're younger and you don't deal with those issues, and then you get in a relationship hoping that you recreate the same exact situation and you haven't dealt with your issues, that man, why is this person doing the same exact thing that my parents did to me or this person did to me back then? And you don't realize that you first have to deal with yourself. You have to love yourself and nurture the fact that there's something good that can come from like a relationship or things that happen for you, that it can be better, they will be better. But if you don't sit there and receive it or believe that, then each time you have these relationships, you're like, dang, I go through this one ex and it's like this, and it goes and it's like a whole different crazy thing. And she even went into talking about how with Tyler Perry movies, most of African American females, they're portrayed as like crazy, overbearing, controlling, and it's like, I mean, to a degree, I've seen that, but that's not necessarily with every single person at all. That's just not true. There is something inside of all of us, and for the guys, it's the same exact thing. It's more physical abuse, verbal abuse, sickness, to the degree on a mental level that they're not even there. Their whole conception is I got to get this, I got to get that. I'm gonna change my whole demeanor. Yet when you living in a business etiquette environment, you're like just being overbearing and being this total like obnoxious person for no good reason, just because you feel like somebody owes something to you. Like that, all that is enveloped from the things that they haven't dealt with, and with that, the reality is we're all jacked up. Like, it's not just African American women, it's not just African American men, it's not just Latino, it's not just Caucasian. We all are jacked up. We've all formed some kind of uh, conformism to the degree that we want to be loved, we want to have things, and we want to have it our way. And that's it. But the reality of it is that our life is not our own. The things that we think we want and we need, they aren't ours. And the things that we know, or that we think we know, the reality of it is that those are not even ours. Like, it's not that Sam, which is my name, is the person that can tell you this or tell you that, and he's the gospel. Like, I don't care if it's a person that is of the world or if it's a person that's a Christian. I can't have in my heart that I know what's best for you, and you are gonna do it exactly the way I am. Only God can do that. And if I go and I filter what God tells me to tell on you, then that's a whole different factor. But for me, out of selfish nature of trying to actually have, okay, well, I'm going to tell this person this, and they're going to look at me a different kind of light. Or say the opposite end, where I'm going to get all this money, I'm going to be all this kind of things, and I'm going to have everything that I knew that I wanted. Then just having all this emptiness, you've already created pride. Either you'll have a whole bunch of pride, or you have a whole bunch of, like, carnalism. And it just changes and sways the whole area and aspect of every relationship that you're in. Relationship, romantic, or friendship. That's just the factor of it. Like, we don't realize what we're doing. The other thing she was talking about that she doesn't have anything negative to say about African American men, which I really appreciate that. Being African American male, like, a lot of times I do hear a lot of scrutinizing against African American males. It's always like this preconceived notion that I'm over this, and I'm gonna beat this down, or I'm gonna be this kind of way, or I'm just gonna ditch. And that's just not even how my character is. As a matter of fact, as an African American male, knowing the statistics, educated wise, of what is the norm, I want to be different. Like, I don't want to be another statistic. I don't want to sit there and have people look upon me and say, okay, this person is not going to do or amount anything just because they're trying to act like they owe this, they owe that. Like, I want to work, I want to love, I want to provide, I want to actually be a help to my environment. And that is based off of everything that I've seen that I don't want to be. It wasn't the fact that I just chose to be this. It was the fact that it's the opposite. And so I really appreciate her comment about that. She also said the relationship that she has that with African American males, she hasn't had really any bad relationships, period, at all. Which, I mean, I don't necessarily know, but she made an interesting point. She talked about the fact that her relationship with her father wasn't necessarily the best one, but she said that that does not determine what I will become, which I thought that was really cool because that allowed me to actually go into Deuteronomy. I'm going to go and read you a verse. It's Deuteronomy 27:24. So give me 1 second, and I'll bring that up right now. Let's see here. Is it 24? Especially as anyone who is secretly, then all the people shall say amen. Because anyone accepts the bride. Another person. I can't find it. But to simplify the verse, basically, and what I received from it, is that we can't let our past define us. We can't let what this person did at this point in time define who we're supposed to be, who we're meant to be. It's actually supposed to actually grow our testimony into evolving into something more. But the only way you actually know who you really are is if somebody is actually holding you accountable. Kind of what she's kind of talked about in the beginning, but accountability level is totally different when it comes with God. Like, God sees everything. He knows your heart. Like, you every day you think about the fact of, like, how many sins you actually commit. Like, I mean, like, commandments do you break? Do you lie? Do you steal? Do you cheat? Do you kill? I mean, do you really do that? And then besides that, the relationship factor, like, how often do you really talk and believe that God can help you or really commune with Him? Like, if you don't, then it's like you're almost like spitting in his face and cheating him on at the same time. So it's like you don't realize that, but when you commune with him, he shows you like who you really are, what you really can be. And you don't need those things of like, man, this my father did this, or my mother did this, so I need to be this better so they can accept me or they can be this with me. She said she didn't need that to define her. She said, I think in the quote was like, um, she even said that she can't allow or assume that every man that she date is going to be like her father. And even when she said every ex as well. So she said, she's saying that basically when she gets on a date with the person, she's not going on auspices. Okay, this person is going to be just like this. So I'm gonna guard this. I'm gonna watch that. You can guard your heart from actual fleshly desires if you don't want to get tempted. That's perfectly logical. But you already have a preconceived notion that this person is this, this, and this, and even if everything is telling you the total opposite, that means that what you're putting in you is what's coming out. If you put in the word in you, you put in the understanding and the wisdom of God, being able to use godly wisdom when you're actually interacting with a female or a male in the right kind of way, then it's going to change your whole perspective of how you interact, or what is this relationship really? What is this friendship? If you go from the notion that this is my sister or this is my brother, then every aspect before it gets to the point that y'all are even in a relationship, and even after to the point you're in marriage, all the stuff we get thrown out the door anyway, because you're going to have admiration for them. You're going to want to actually know them. You're going to actually help them. You're not going to actually judge them just because of your past based on this. But a lot of that, like I said, comes from a lot of brokenness. But she made really good points off of that. I really like that. She even was talking about as women how you have to accept the fact of what inside you really are. And um, to me, that automatically brought me to 1 Corinthians 6:19, that your body is a holy temple, essentially. That so the Holy Spirit can actually reside in you, which God has sacrificed to be able to give, of course. But your body as a holy temple is of great value. Like, God blessed us with this, and it's not for us to just give away to any other person, like this next regular old Joe, let alone giving up your body or yourself or your spirit to something that's fruitless, to something that is negative, that's something that's abusing you and putting you down. And that's so tricky, because when you're in a relationship, it's one thing, but if you're in a marriage and you're already in that situation, it's like all you can do is just pray and seek God for help, because you don't want to sit there and go and do something rash, and at the same time you want to actually have a life. So that's why I said that when the wee hour of the night, like, the only person that's in your corner truly is going to be God. And if you love God more than you love that other significant person, God will give you desires of your heart. He will raise that other person up, or either one, He will give you something more, or He'll bless you in this area and He'll drive you in the right direction you need to go. And that's really the best advice I can give for marriage couples. Now, people in a relationship that haven't actually gotten to a marriage yet, that's a whole nother thing, because you have room to know that this is not yet final, and in the degree of what is it that God's really saying? What is it God needs you to do? What is it that this person needs to have from God? Are you willing to actually sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice them? Like, are they idol to you? If you look at your phone and you look and you say, okay, on your phone, I want you, you do this in public, and you say, what is the most stuff that's on your phone? Who are the people that you most talk to and you most look at? Are they idle? Can you honestly say that you talk to them every single day, every time? Where's your time really going? Is it going to God, or is it going in this person? And if they're an idol, then you have to miscorrect that and say, okay, God, like, what is it that I need from this person? What am I trying to get from this person that I really need from you? But people don't want to evaluate that. But that is the kind of thing that we need to ingrain in our children. We need to gain it, and so that they can be able to know and sustain themselves better than we could. Like, there was one thing that I was going to read. Let me read it real real quick. Find it. It's from Deuteronomy 6:6-9. These commandments I give to you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, when you get up. Tie them to the symbols of your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses, on your gates. The things that I'm talking about in this, and the things that the Word of God has to be able to bless you with, and the communication lines you have with God, that's something that you could be imparting onto your children. Like aspects of love, faith, redemption, hope, truth, truth about the enemy. Because the reality of it is, it's not a battle against flesh and blood. Like, granted, you might be upset with your spouse, you might be upset with your best friend today or tomorrow, but at the end of the day, it's not that person. It's the enemy using that person against you to take you out. The enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy. Kill is the major factor of that. He is the person that is the real aspect of that you need to fight, and you need to actually know and have a seriousness level of, okay, this enemy is real. This enemy wants to take you out. This enemy wants to change everything about what the book of that God wanted to write for you. And he's going to allow you to continue to mess up and pull away from God to the point that allows your children to pull away from God. It allows your children to be hopeless, to be damaged, to be able to have total disregard of life and death. That is the things that he wants. And it was interesting because I found two different Bible verses that I thought that, especially for like a daughter, if a father said this to his daughter, I thought it was really essential. And even it can go into even deeper level as far as with any of our children. But I'm gonna read this real quick. This 1 Peter 3:3-4. Go ahead and find that real quick. Thanks for being patient, y'all. It's a little late. It's like 12:35. Probably need to get ready to go to bed. Okay, this reads, "Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle, quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight." That's beautiful, because it's like, to me, it's setting up the expectation level they need to have. It's like you don't you don't have to have like these kind of things to actually have you or define you to that level. The goodness of the Lord can be more than enough, but at the same time, you're a princess. Like you are a king's kid. You need to value yourself. You need to know that if a guy is not a gentleman, or if a girl is not ladylike, if she is bringing temptation into your life, if she's trying to change you in a certain kind of way, that you are not even knowing who you are anymore, and you're controlling your own destiny as opposed to letting go and letting God. Um, that's not what is the meat of it. It's not who you are. Like, if you are royalty, if you are valued, which you are, which we all are, which God is meant for us to do great things, that his love is more than enough to sustain us, that we don't have to earn his love or his respect. Of course, we have to go in the right spirit, and go in boldness, and go and do greater things. Um, Even excellence level. There's a level of excellence that we're supposed to actually have about us. There's a level of swag that God had, like level of swag that Jesus carried. When he walked up, like, people were like, "Man, that's a bad man." But nah, on a serious note, like, people saw a difference about him. To be different is a good thing. To let out, to pour out, is not a weakness, it's a strength. And I mean, these kind of things like are nightly, and this is interesting. I mean, I'm going more than I need to, but anyway, the next one was Proverbs 31:30, and this will be the last kind of thing I'm gonna touch on before, because I'm running over more than I thought I would. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm surprised. I'll be surprised if anybody listens to all this. um, it says that charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring praise at the city gate. I thought that was interesting because it was like basically saying that all these glimmer and glamour, all these things of like curves or a certain kind of way you want to look, or liposuction, or even piercings or tattoos, like who, if that is something that you want, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that is something that you feel you need to define you, that is an issue. If those things have to define you for you to be able to say, okay, I'm this, I'm that, and that, those materials and makeup and all these different things, even like a need to have somebody, like those are not factors that you need. And it's the same for the male. Like you don't need to have this certain kind of level. Okay, I'm this kind of person. I'm that kind of person. I'm that kind of athlete. I can drink as much as I want to, and that is nobody can take that away from me. I'm this. I'm that. Yeah, this and that. If you have a fear of the Lord, if you know the promises and His mercy for you, if you are willing to give Him your all, like you will be self-fulfilled. Because at the end of the day, like, you can gain the whole world, you can get all these things from people, but at the end of the day, like you would have nothing. Once you're dead and you're in the grave, what is it that your legacy is going to look like? If people remember you, that's fine, but what is going to carry on over the centuries? You know, I pray for our city. I pray for where I'm living is Washington, D.C. I pray for our nation. I pray for the world. But it starts at home, everybody. It starts with us. And the way that we need to actually allow God to pour into us to heal those broken places in our heart, those empty things that we try to hold that defines us, those materialistic things. Like we don't need any of them. We need to let go of them. And I really, like I said, I really like the way that she presented it. She mentioned a lot of boldness with her video. Um, she raised a lot of valid points, but it's not just the African American women. It's not just even the African American men. It's everybody. If we do our part in home, it can change the whole scope of our world. It can change the whole aspect of our thinking. We can be more. Like it's not even. I don't even know what's called to be a rebel anymore. Everybody, what the rebelliousness later before was like, okay, you go outside when you're not supposed to, or you go and get a tattoo like you're not supposed to, or you go and you just go and drink. Everybody's doing everything now. There's no boundaries. There's no rules. There's no like, okay, well, you shouldn't be doing this then. We have to save our nation. To do that, we do that through our children. The way that our children learn is through the environment around. They absorb like sponges. And so I pray some of this gets to somebody. I really appreciate, like I said, the video. Um, and I'll put a link to her original video down here. I know I went off topic. I went totally around everything she was talking about because it's not about like black and white or men and women. It's about lives, and that's what I care about. I pray y'all have a good night, And yeah, leave your comments. Take care.